Okay, we got the video. Sandra's going to do it for us. Sheeta is out of town on the tournament. I'm going to do a review of everything we've done this semester. Okay? So take notes, take pictures, ask questions. If I'm busy up here, yell. And, I got a question. Let me know. When we finish today, we want to have gone over everything that we've done. Wednesday, I'll give you a practice midterm, which means it will be 2 questions. It'll be just like the midterm, and we'll do it in here. If you can't get finished through the second question, that's okay. Just send me what you've got, because this will practice anyway, so it gives you an idea of what the midterm looks like. Friday will be important because we will review that midterm, review that practice test. So by the time we do the day, do the practice test, and then review it on Friday, you should be ready for the midterm on Monday, and I can get, 58. Now I have to go to my boss and explain why I gave 58. On to business. You got partnership, you got corporation. Now, if there is something in the question that is a form of business question, then you start your paragraph. This is a form of business issue. And you say yes, they can choose between partnership or corporation. Remember, I start at 0 and add points. I grade backwards. I don't start at the top and take things away. So the more things you give me, the higher your grade goes. One of the things you can give me is the definition. A definition of a partnership is 2 or more people agree to do business. The definition of a corporation is a legal entity or business. So you slip that sentence in there and your grade goes up. If you just say it's a form of business, they got 5 decision makers, I think it should be a partnership, that's a good paper. But if you say they've got a choice between a partnership and a corporation, and give me the definition of the partnership, and then give me the definition of the corporation, then tell me which one you choose, your grade goes up a little bit. That just makes sense. You're explaining to me your answer. 5 decision makers. The 3 business women need to consider the 5 decision makers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As I told you before, traditionally, always, every semester, 50% of the papers will have all 5, but they'll have them in the paragraph. And I have to read all the way down to the bottom before I find the 5. Go ahead and get them right out in the open to start with. Capital. Control. Ease of creation. Act. Liability. You want your grade to go up? When you talk about capital, don't just say they need to raise capital. These 3 business women need to raise capital, period. Well, that's a true statement. You get credit for that. If you want a little more credit, say capital is money needed to start a business, and it can be by selling stock if it's a corporation. If it's a partnership, it can be by getting a loan or personal money, money from family or whatever. Tell me a little bit about capital. Everybody knows what capital is. We haven't had any problem with that in this class. So when you say the capital, tell me a little about it. The same thing with control. When you say they want more control, period. That's a good sentence. What does that mean? It means they want to hire and fire. It means they want to decide what color the hoodies are. It means if they're nurses, it means they want to decide whether they want to work in the hospital or the doctor's office. Right? So talk a little bit about why partners would want control. The ease of creation is easy. Taxation, if it is partnership, personal rate, corporations, double taxation. You do not have to explain double taxation. I assume everybody knows what that is. You don't have to go through the finances of the double taxation, but you do have to tell me that they would have to be taxed double. Does anybody not understand what it is? If you have liability, what does that mean as to the other four? Liability is the most important. If you got a product that's going to hurt somebody or could hurt somebody, it takes precedence over anything else, except maybe capital, which means you got to start business to start with. But if you have a business or a partnership that is making something that can hurt somebody, you need to discuss liability. If you have a product that is dangerous, it does not have to be a corporation. You want that corporate shield, but you can still have it a partnership if the other things, mean that it should be a partnership. It's just you have to discuss where the partners are willing to take a chance on liability because they want so much control. All right, so if you choose something that goes against the liability, say why. The same thing with double taxation. If you choose a partnership, if you choose a corporation, you need to say these three women are willing to pay double taxes in order to get liability protection. Questions on that? Either on the practice test or on the midterm exam, I usually have a question where it isn't two or three people starting a business. It may be some two or three people that are 40-year-old and they're changing their job and they're going into another business. And when they go into the other business, they're in a management position and they have to make decisions. What are we going to do about the business? Do we need to raise more capital? Do we need more control? And so if it doesn't look right to you, read it very carefully and see if the forms of business still apply. Basic business equation. Profit equals revenue minus expense. If you have this question, you probably have this question. If you may spend a paragraph or two, or one long paragraph, talking about forms of business, it is very easy to have the second paragraph. This is also a basic business issue. The partnership or the corporation that I just formed wants to make a profit. In order to make a profit, they have to have revenues minus expenses. When I say that test your ability to think. The kind of things that I'm looking at is there'll be the 47 or 48 people in here, there'll be 45 of them that will say profit equals revenue minus expenses. But there won't be but one or two that says if revenue goes up or expenses go down, then profit goes up. That's one more step. So if you say this is a business equation issue also, after you form the business, and profit equals revenue minus expenses, and they want to make a profit in their new partnership, just add the sentence. Revenues go up or expenses go down, profits go up. That shows me that you truly are thinking. That you're thinking of everything that can happen if you're that partnership or if you're that corporation. Ethics. Religion. What does it mean when I say that somebody has a religious standard?
They won't do something bad because they'll think that God is
Okay? It is because of their faith, they can point to the Bible or the Quran or the Talmud. They can point to something in their faith that says you don't do things wrong. Okay? So that would be a religious standard. And what is the definition of ethics? Do the right thing. No one is looking. Right? Unless you're LeBron, then you can take a flop when nobody's looking and everybody thinks that's the right thing to do. So, this is also an ethics issue. Okay? Maybe you've got both of these, and I've got something in the facts where somebody has stolen money, or somebody has realized that somebody else is stealing money, and they've turned them into the corporation or to the partnership. So you give the definition. This is also an ethics issue. Ethics means doing the right thing when nobody's looking. And this partner or this stockholder or this person used a religious standard, and I'll tell you what that is. You don't have to tell it. Or they use a moral standard, which is knowing right from wrong, but they don't isn't part of their faith. It's just a basic knowing right from wrong. A plus answer. This is an ethics issue. Ethics is, give the definition. There are three types of ethics. In this situation, it appears to be a moral ethic, or it appears to be a religious ethic. Situational is bad. Situational occurs. Somebody in the previous class, might be you, said that hurricanes come in and they may close school Monday or Friday or something. You might have heard that. Oh, I mean, if it sprinkles rain, they'll close school. If the hurricane's pushing COVID, then they'll close school for a couple of months. But the hurricane is a good example of situations. Right? Situational, you may have to do something that you haven't planned on because of the hurricane. So situational ethics are bad, but I wouldn't have them on the board if it didn't ever happen. Situational ethics do happen. Sometimes they're okay. Most of the time, it's something that you would tell me, this person has used situational ethics, and that is going to hurt their business. management SWOT. Strength, weakness, opportunity, threat. Faculty, 70 faculty members, we do a SWOT every semester. Businesses usually do it the first of the year, and they might do it every 3 months, they might do it every 5 years. But SWOT are immediate. It's for this point in time. I woke up this morning and I felt terrible. I felt terrible. I'm old. If I don't go to bed at 8 o'clock, I feel terrible. All right, and I went to bed. My wife and I were watching Homeland on Showtime, and we were like in the 4th or 5th season, so I stayed up till like 10 o'clock. And so when my clock goes off at 6:30, I just feel terrible. I get up, I make a coffee, I eat my breakfast, take a shower, I read the news on my iPad, and then I get dressed, and I come to my first class at 7:45. And I got here about 8 o'clock. Well, I did a personal SWOT. Personal SWOT. What was my strength? Well, my strength was today in every class I'm giving a review. I can give a review in my sleep because I've done it so many times. So it's an easier day for me. Even though I lecture 5 out of 6 hours, it's not new material. So my strength was I get to do something I know that I can do. My weakness is I don't feel good. All right, I didn't want to come. My opportunity is I can prove to myself that I can do it. All right, and prove to my wife that I can do it. My threat is I get here and I go through 3 classes, and then I still got 2 classes left, and I just tell them to heck with it, I quit. So, I've got a SWOT that I did this morning. You can do one every day. You can do one every week. Your coach probably does one every practice, even though you don't know it. Even though he isn't writing it down, he's doing it in his head. After you do the SWOT, you then have a strategic management. It is for the future. Now, what makes sense to do before you do a strategic? A SWOT. That just makes sense. There's no rule about it, but if you're going to do a future plan for 6 months or for 1 year, and if you're going to do, most corporations do a 5-year strategic plan. I just got an email, they need 1 more professor on the strategic plan committee. So if you're doing a strategic plan, you do it for the future, and you start out with, where are you right now? Where are you after the SWOT, okay? Here's our strengths, our weakness, our opportunities, our threats. So this is what we're going to do for the next year. And what happens when it fails? What happens if 8 months into the year, 10 people quit? You're losing business. Your opposition, your competition comes out with a brand new product, a brand new phone. What do? A SWOT. You go back and do a SWOT. And your competition's new product would be the threat. Your weakness would be you've now got a new product that you've got to beat. Okay, so it's kind of a continuing process. You do a SWOT to see where we are, how much money do we have in the bank, how many employees do we have, what are we making, what are our expenses, what's our revenue, what's our profit, what's our business equation, and if something doesn't look right, you do a SWOT, you then do a strategic plan. Something goes wrong, you do a SWOT again, and you keep going. Yeah.
So you said this already, right?
I might give you a fact, a form of business issue, and you form a partnership or a corporation body, you form one of the two. Now, in the facts, I might say, 6 months down the road, a competitor has come out with a new product. I may say what it is or may not. And so that is a hint to you that you need a paragraph that says this is also a management issue. And these four former students, these former football players that are making helmets, now need to do a SWOT. And look at what the competitors are doing. And then they need to do a new strategic committee. Each one of these things that you check, each one that you check is a new 2 or 3 paragraphs, a new paragraph. This is an ethics issue. This is a management issue. And then tell me what you think about it, what you remember with the definition. Look at your notes, look at YouTube, look at your phone, and so that, remember, I grade it backwards, start from 0 and adding, the more you give me, the higher the grade goes, and I'm grading 204 of them. So, I've said it many times, if I get to number 180, and somebody says this is a form of business issue, this is a management issue, I probably won't even read the same thing. I'll put an A on it and I'll go to the next one, because I get tired of reading. All right, so the form that you put it in there and how you make that first sentence of each paragraph helps your boss. Remember, I'm trying to teach you how to work. And I promise you, if your boss has got to read 200 memos, he or she is looking for a way to cut it down. So learn how to do that. Are there any questions on those 4? Thanks. Who said that, Mr. Bell? Huh? You? Okay. All right. Thank you. Situational management. That's even a better example with a hurricane coming. All right? Hurricane comes and you got 100 employees and 50 can't get to work. Well, one thing, you can close the business, or you can go to IT. Didn't you used to work in manufacturing? Can you run this machine? The hurricane takes out the internet. You go to your salesman. Any of you guys know anything about computers? We need to get an internet back up. Okay, that's good strategic management. You get 50 people gone and you need to get your business running. You need to get it going. And so you do quick strategic management, no SWOT, no strategic. What can you do today to help me? What can you do today to help me? But normally, situational management is like situational ethics. Normally, situational management is because bosses, coaches panic. They got a plan, they got a strategic plan, and the strategic plan is working for 6 months, and they go into work one day, and somebody says our stock dropped 5%, and they go, oh crap, what do? We got to fire 10 people, we got to cut our expenses. That's bad situational management. Thank you. Anything else on those? All right, take your notes, take your headset, take your laptop, whatever you need. My boss says, why do you give 46 A's? Well, when you go to your, you know, when you go to PRs and tell people, Professor Banks is easy, he gives everybody A's, all right? I want you to understand, I'm not easy, I teach different. There's a difference. I don't mind giving you the answers, because if you can't figure out the question, it doesn't do you any good. And I don't mind letting you use your phone, because when you graduate and go to work, and your boss says, you know, what's the stock market look like, you're going to look at your phone. So I teach reality. And the reason that makes it seem easy, because it's a better way to do it. It's just a better way to do it. And I have to explain that to my boss every semester. My boss, one of my bosses told me yesterday that, you know, we need to raise the bar. We need to make it harder. We need to flunk people. They're not doing good enough. We're not teaching them hard enough stuff. We've got to make accounting harder. My answer was, well, why don't you teach better? I mean, it's just, he didn't like that answer, but that's the answer. Okay, in addition to the business things we talked about, I touched a little bit on some legal things. Courts and contracts. Now, I mentioned crime and property, and I am not going to put those on the midterm. So you will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You will have 6 things to choose from on the midterm. And the midterm will be 2 tax situations. Each tax will have 2 or 3 issues. I call these issues. And you've got 6 issues to choose from. All right. In torts and contracts and business law, we do lawsuits. And I take you from somebody getting hurt and filing a lawsuit, or getting arrested, or breaking a contract. I take it all the way through to a jury coming back with damages or guilty or not guilty. For this class, we just talk about what they are. Torts is a damage or injury to a person. Well, crime is an injury to society. So they seem to be very similar, and if you watch TV and the movies, they seem to be very similar, but they are not. But the reason why they seem to be similar in TV and the movies is because they never use the word tort. I mean, that's just people don't know what that word means, but you need to know what that means. Has anybody started watching the Dahmer thing on Netflix? Oh, God, I couldn't get through the first season. The head in the freezer didn't be in. All right. Damage and injury to a person. In here, we are talking about negligence. Negligence can be a slip and fall, can be a car accident, somebody running a stop sign. Negligence can be somebody on a rocket and down at Cape Canaveral that they can't blast off because somebody made a rubber tubing wrong. Negligence can be hundreds of things. Negligence is somebody has a duty to a person, or public, or business, and somebody gets hurt. When that duty is breached or broken. understand. Okay, every one of you here ought to understand that if somebody breaches a duty, it, you know, and it results in an injury, that's a bad thing. Okay? If a trainer says, yeah, you know, her ankle's fine, let her go back in, and 5 minutes later she breaks her ankle and is playing field hockey or something. Did you field hockey or soccer? Anybody in here field hockey? I mean, that would hurt my back. The sticks are too short. All right. So what am I going to test you on? Am I going to test you on something that's obvious? You can say this is a torts issue. This is a negligence issue. Duty that's breached that leads to injury is a tort. But the duty must be reasonable. And the injury must be foreseeable. That's what I'm going to test you on. That requires some thinking. I will give you somebody with a duty, and I'm going to give you an injury, and you're going to have to give me the duty to breach to an injury, and then you're going to have to say the duty may or may not have been reasonable. The duty must be reasonable. These facts, it isn't clear that the duty was reasonable or not reasonable. Okay, you've got to show me that you understand that that's a major part of it. Right? If the trainer doesn't fix the field hockey girl's ankle, and she goes out there and breaks her ankle, and when she breaks her ankle, she whips her stick around and hits a teammate in the nose and breaks the teammate's nose. Is that foreseeable? Okay? Don't just say no. Say the injury has to be foreseeable. And in these facts, the broken ankle would be foreseeable. The broken nose is probably not foreseeable, but that would be the issue. Remember, and happens more after the midterm than it does now. But you can't tell me the answer. You're not the jury, you're not the judge, you're not the police officer. You've got to give me the options. You've got to tell me that this is reasonable or not reasonable. It needs to be reasonable. I think it's reasonable because so-and-so. It may not be reasonable because of so-and-so. And the more that you show me that you're thinking about it, the higher your grade is. Contracts. Contracts can be very easy or very complicated. Consideration, which is dollars, which is value. You have to have all three. And a contract to build a football stand or nursing building is 100 pages long. All right? You may have a contract that's 1 page that says, I'm offering to do this, you're accepting it, you sign it, here's the money. Most of the time, well, I should say, consideration is often an issue. Usually the offered acceptance is pretty evident. You can tell that somebody offered it, somebody accepted it, but somebody hadn't paid yet, so the contract is void. Every now and then you get a business, let's say a business is buying $1 million worth of air conditioners for an apartment complex. And somebody has offered to sell that $1 million worth of air conditioners. And the other side sent the money. But then the air conditioners come to the apartment complex and none of them get cold. None of them are any good. So they don't accept them. They don't take them off the truck. They tell 18-wheelers, take them back, we don't want them. So you could get somewhere where there's an offer and consideration paid, but there's no acceptance. A more likely scenario is you've got an offer and acceptance with no consideration. Except air conditioners, they're supposed to pay in 90 days and they hadn't paid, and then you get into the lawsuit type thing. What did I tell you express means in law, in business? Written. In business, anything that is expressed means it's written. Express mail, you got to fill out a form. An express partnership, you got a general partnership agreement. Okay, express, anything that has to be written. Well, you can have an express contract, which is written, but you can also have an implied contract, just like implied partnership. And I have just about beat this example to death, but the teenager across the street from my house, I paid him $20 to cut my grass, and he came back the next week. You want me to cut your grass? Yeah, sure. He did it for 5 years, and got to where every time the grass needed cut, he would come cut it. And then when I saw him, I would say, how much do I owe you? And he'd say, you owe me for 2 times, or you owe me for 3 times. All right, so what happens if, after 5 years, he knocks on my front door and says, Mr. Leon, you owe me $60, I've cut the grass 3 times. And I tell him, well, too bad, we don't have a contract. We don't have anything signed. So I appreciate you cutting the grass, but I'm not going to pay you the $60. Would that be fair? No. That's an obvious implied contract. An implied contract, an express contract is by the writing, an implied contract is by the act of the parties. 2 people or 2 businesses have acted like there's a contract, and so there is a contract. Just like if 2 people have acted like there's a partnership, and then a truck runs over somebody, well, for the person that got run over, it was a partnership. You remember that example? Okay, it's the same thing with the contract. All right, question. There'll be, by the time Wednesday comes and we do the practice test, there'll be 5 or 6 or 7 YouTubes up. Please watch them, okay? Not only is it taking Edith's time and today's Andrew's time, but I'm paying her for it. I don't want to pay for it if I'm not going to watch it. Right? So the school's not paying for it. Once again, I'm doing that because that's real life. You go out and go to work, you're going to have YouTube tutorials. They're going to say, here's your machine. Go sit down in your cubicle, pull up the YouTube, learn how to use your machine. That's the way it's done. So that's why I do the YouTube. Right. Any questions? Take pictures, ask questions. Yes.
Are you going to set up the example of the answer to the test? The example of the answer to the test question?
Yes, I'm sorry I haven't got
No,
that out.
okay.
No, I'll try to get that out today. I try to send every class an A+ answer, so you have something to look at. And in addition to that, Friday, we will go over the practice midterm. So we'll have on this board what would be an A answer to the test that you take on Wednesday. Yes, ma'am.
Will you show us like the practice test 2 grades to like put those in the computer?
Oh, you asked me that before, and I thought I put them in there.
Mine's still not in there.
All right, I'll do that this afternoon. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Can you explain the difference between duty and negligence?
Yep. Negligence, good question. Negligence is a legal term. careless. You could use you could use sloppy. Somebody, a butcher is sloppy, and there's blood and fat on the floor, and somebody slips. So negligence is a legal term for a business that has done something careless. Duty is a legal term that means if you have a business, you have to protect your customers. You have to protect your customers. You have to protect the public. If you are renting or owning a building and they come in your door, it is your obligation, your duty, obligation is a good word, to make sure that they're protected. Does that explain?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? All right. I will see you Wednesday. I will send an A+ answer. I'll post it in Wolf 10. I'll send an A+ answer by email. And I'll do the grades in Wolf 10 too. I apologize if I haven't done that. You already had to ask me twice.
It's okay.